So, Raw Underground. Now, for transparency, we're recording this after they've only done one edition of it. So, for all we know, when this episode actually goes out on the Fight Network, they've already scrapped this idea and have decided that it was completely bobbins. But, like, I mean, what did you make of it?
Look, I think the argument to be made is that Raw Underground is a great idea. It's fantastic. The presentation of it was gubbins. You've got, I think like a no holds barred edition of wrestling where it's a bit seedy, it's underground. It's you have the ability to settle scores in a slightly non-conformed like a regular way, so like you open up the ability to get all those feuds that they want. They struggle so much when they're just like building up to Extreme Rules, and it's like, this must be settled in a match that involves no rules, and you can do that in Raw Underground any week you like. However, because it's WWE, they presented it like it was a fight scene in a Pitch Perfect movie. I don't know, like you know what I mean? It wasn't even like Fast and Furious levels of which legitimately has WWE people in it. It didn't even have that sort of level of like fake, like glossy budget grittiness. And then you've got blooming billionaire's son, Shane McMahon, overseeing the whole thing, which then just gives it the same vibe as the Hunger Games. It's you know what I mean? It's everything about it. The presentation of it just sucked. You've got Shane constantly yammering as people are beating each other up, going like, well done, big man. Nice one, big man, big man, big man. Nice one, big man, you big man. You're a big man, aren't you, big man? Let him go, big man. He's a little man, big man. And yeah, any other presentation of that, like leaving it up to maybe like MVP to run Raw Underground, would have made it a little bit more legitimate, because MVP at least has an air of cool about him. And he's very good on the mic. He's very good at selling you on the sort of viciousness of the Hurt Business in general. And I think that you could extend that out and make the whole Raw Underground thing fall under his umbrella. Instead, you've got Shane McMahon in Air Jordans or whatever, like $5,000 shoes that he owns, and and a big Celtics t-shirt or whatever it is.
He did make it tragically uncool.
Yeah,
it was a bit sad. Like I said this in the Raw review we did of it. It proper reminded me of, you remember that bit in Alan Partridge when he's having visions of him doing the strip teases. He's like, "Do you want me to lap dance for you?" Like that's what it had the vibe of, and I don't think that's what they were going for.
It had the vibe of a man who's paid to have this as his birthday party. That's what it had the vibe of. It was everyone was like playing along. It's like, like when you on a stag do, you can go and do wrestling. And you're Shane McMahon in that scenario, when as on a stag do you go along and do wrestling with wrestlers. Shane McMahon was his own stag do.
But has Raw or WWE had worse ideas than Raw Underground? Because I kind of what you said, I don't think it's the worst idea possible. I think there is some good to be found here. I just think they have gone about it all completely the wrong way. It doesn't help as well that Kevin Dunn was constantly cutting the camera. Someone actually worked it out. It was like on average 1.5 seconds they would then cut to a new camera angle, which is like it was so queasy to watch. I think this was better than Brawl for All, they did in the late 90s. This was way better than Brawl for All.
Yeah, I think it's just it's one of those ones where there's a kernel of a good idea in there. And I think WWE does this so often where it's like there's just this missing bit with all of the ideas. Like the wild card rule, I would argue was a good idea at some point until they broke the rules of the wild card rule almost immediately. And then they ruined it. And that it made sense to sort of, you want to do different rosters, you want to do people transferring across, and then you immediately break that by being like, anyone can turn up. There's not even a limit. Who cares? Like Lars is here. Here's Lars, big man, big man. And I think Raw Underground is going to have that same issue where it's like, it didn't even really make sense in the presentation of Raw this week, right? Like it was just, here's a thing Shane's doing.
Shane's doing this now, I guess.
Yeah, and here's a random dude you've never seen before. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like we've set this up to do something with some people who you care about. It's just, here's Shane McMahon with another terrible idea.
I also think it was better than, because like Raw's had a couple of like goofy gimmicks as of late. Like, you know, we had this, and like last year we had Corey Graves's electric chair when
no, yeah, I remember that.
When Sami Zayn was just sort of sat in it, a literal electric chair in the middle of the ring that was basically there for him to name drop AEW and see what sort of reaction it would get. That you know, lasted 1 week. I also think it was better than Mick Foley's, what do they call it, like Raw's darker third hour, like where the lights were a bit dimmer, and they introduced the 24/7 title through it. Like, this is like, I think those ideas were way worse than
I think the 24/7 title was a worse idea, because they've immediately forgot. But again, these are all like, all of these things aren't ideas. These aren't like long-term ideas. None of them. These are all one segment that they present as if it's going to be an ongoing thing, and then because it doesn't do what they hoped it would do, they just have to chuck it away. And like they're just throwing out ideas that are nonsense in the hope that someone goes like, brilliant, excellent, we'll do that. More karaoke battles. We love karaoke battles. And you know, it's you know, it's that same thing of like the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders having their anything you can do, I can do better feud, which just killed the momentum of both teams. Because they were just like, well, that's something different, isn't it? And that, like, sometimes different isn't better. Just do, like, you're good at wrestling. You've been good at wrestling for many years, WWE. Stick with the wrestling. Forget like blooming your uncle's Fight Club or whatever it is. Like, blooming Raw. I can't believe they let Shane McMahon present. Like, Shane McMahon, like, being like, this is a thing that I've put together and I've got these guys to host it and stuff. But like, yeah, the kind of, I'm legit enough to host this, big man. Just, oh man, it's just so bad, isn't it? I've not got to talk to anyone about this yet, so I'm quite pleased we're chatting about this on here, because I just think it's so terrible. Oh my God.